The good news is that I figured out a 5-minute exercise program that corrects for almost every imbalance we can have, and you can do it anywhere. Today, I'm going to give it to you as a gift just for watching the end of this presentation because I care about you and your results.
And I'm really glad that you've decided to join me on this process and voyage towards your ideal body. In the body transformation mini circuit, every exercise will be done once for 1 minute for a total of 5 minutes. This is to be done 7 days a week. The reason I know this is going to work is not because it's going to drop crazy fat in that time period. That's just not realistic. What it's really going to do is enhance posture. It's going to help you stand up taller. It's going to help your chest pop out, your butt get tighter, reduce your waistline a little bit because we're training muscles into the ideal position. And you know what? It's actually going to help you get better in bed too. And I don't mean that in some sort of sick, perverted way. Let's face facts. We're all attracted to the opposite sex or same sex or what have you. It's perfectly normal that you want them to be attracted back towards you. So why wouldn't we purposely incorporate strengthening exercises for pelvic mobility in our exercise program? It only makes sense, and it's only going to make you happier, more proud, and more self-confident.
You're going to lose fat faster than anything you've ever seen, and you'll be able to accelerate fat loss to make it as fast as you want. Plus, you'll know exactly what to do if your fate turns someday or you get too busy and you put the weight back on. I'm not going to leave a single stone unturned for you. I know how important this is for you, which makes it that important for me too. Thank you so much for your trust.
What I want you to do is practice statements of goal achievement as if they've already happened. So for example, I'm so happy and grateful now that I've lost 12 pounds and I can fit into that bathing suit that I've been trying to wear for the longest time. Or, it's the most amazing feeling to me now that I was able to buy a pair of jeans that are 4 sizes smaller than anything I've ever fit in my entire life before. You see, that's an affirmation, that's positive self-talk, and it's gonna make your goal that much more easy to realize. This is a trick that I have all of my clients and patients practice, and it works. It works exceptionally well, so take my word for it. Today what we're going to learn about is going to be multiplanar movement, okay? We're also going to learn about muscle balancing, and we're going to learn about movement complexes. And those are the 3 key points, the 3 essential points to fat loss forever. So say it with me now. I'm so happy and grateful now that I understand motor learning and how to blow up my exercise program for the rest of my life so I get crazy results. I'm so happy and grateful now that I understand movement complexes and their ability to actually deliver me more rest and faster results when it comes to fat loss. And I feel absolutely empowered now that I understand muscle balancing can protect my joints and get fat loss results for the rest of my life. You see, that's just the practice of affirmations, which is really kind of critical point 4, which is goal achievement. None of this matters unless you hit your goal. And that's why I specialize in teaching people about goal achievement. So let's get into multiplanar movement. For example, we need to move forward, backwards in life. We need to move side to side. We need to move with rotation. We live in a 3D world, and we have to train in a 3D way unless we want to get injured down the road. Plus, it just works better. See, human bodies are made to run, jump, move, lunge. You get the idea. And without actually putting yourself through that kind of dynamic environment on an everyday basis, it's going to be that much harder for you to get stronger on an everyday basis. So you might get really, really strong at bench press, but is that going to help you lift up the couch when you go to move? You might get really, really strong at leg extensions, but that's not a functional exercise, and that's not going to work unless you're a soccer player. It comes down to squats, it comes down to push-ups. So let's talk about forward backwards movements first. In multiplanar movements, we're talking about forward backwards, side to side, and rotational, just as a reminder. Forward backwards, for a lower body example, would be like a squat. So what we're doing, let's say arms across the chest, squat down and back, stand up through the cheeks, and return to your starting position. Again, tummy tight on the way down, cheeks tight on the way up. That would be a forward backwards movement. An upper body example would simply be a push-up. Now, a lot of people do it this way, or they round. That's not what we're looking for. We want you to come down nice, slowly, and controlled. Push back up. That's a forward backwards movement again. Push-ups are actually all about your core, which is kind of cool. The next thing that I want to show you is side to side. So how do we take those same 2 exercises and now apply a side to side movement instead? Well, there's a such thing as side step squat, where I'm actually lifting my leg at the bottom point of the movement and then standing, thereby translating all the force to my abductors and adductors. Abductors move my leg out to the side, to the outside, and adductors help me cross my legs. So again, in a side step squat example, I'm hitting side to side movements or side to side plane. That same exercise, by using that variety, is going to deliver a better result every time. In the push-up example, now's a better opportunity to sort of reinforce the concept of butterfly. Do you see how this is side to side, as opposed to this, like bench press, would be forward backwards. And then finally, let's talk about with rotation. The squat just turns into a sumo walk. Just like a sumo wrestler, I'm gonna get you down 90-degree knee bend at your ankle, or 90-degree knee bend. We're gonna keep your weight shifted posteriorly or onto your heels and simply walk back and forth. Now we're allowing the weight shift, the squat movement, but we're adding rotation as we go. If you get really advanced, you can start really turning as you go through this exercise. Again, in the push-up example, what we're gonna do is instead we're gonna come down, push up into rotation like a T push-up, okay, and come back down and repeat. This would be called rotational push-ups, and it's a phenomenal way to build scapular strength, scapular stability, shoulder blade stability, protect your rotator cuff, and deliver abnormally fast fat loss results. So that's multiplanar movement in a nutshell. Now, let's go ahead and talk about movement complexes. See, movement complex is really cool. Let's take a peek at this. One idea would be using things like supersets, giant sets, okay? Circuits to be able to use movement complexes to deliver better results by adding exercises together. Now, as a second definition, and this is one that I think you'll see the application more often, would be choosing one exercise modality, like a dumbbell, for example, and going through squat, push, lunge, pull, plank, all with a dumbbell, then taking a prolonged rest before you ever set it down and repeating. Now, in my professional opinion, I think you can trade the dumbbell out for a curling bar, for a medicine ball, or anything else. We're gonna get into muscle balancing in a moment, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So again, in a movement complex, we're taking one exercise modality like a dumbbell and applying a scenario of multiple exercises to it. Regardless of which definition you subscribe to, the bottom line is you're not doing one exercise and then resting. You're putting a lot of them together, different body parts, different areas, and then you're taking your prolonged rest. This is much better for faster fat loss. Finally, I want to talk to you about muscle balancing. Muscle balancing is not just important left to right, front to back in your body. It's not just biceps to triceps, but it's also, do you have chicken legs, right? And a big upper body. Nobody really wants that anyways, and you have to balance that out. Otherwise, you're not speaking neuro to your system. And it all comes down to speaking the language your system understands the best, and that's electricity. So, in a muscle balancing perspective, what we really want to do is work agonist, antagonist. So that's biceps, triceps, right? So while we're working just the biceps, now that could be a strength set. We'll go to triceps as an endurance set, and that produces what's called an active rest period and referred to in neuroscience as reciprocal inhibition. Reciprocal inhibition is just a fancy way of saying when I go to contract my biceps, my triceps turns off. Otherwise, I'd be stuck in this cogwheel rigidity type movement where I'd be getting caught in between. So that's the agonist antagonist. We also said top to bottom, right? So that's just going to be the example of, am I always lifting abs and chest and back, and I'm never ever doing anything in terms of squats and deadlifts and that kind of thing, because that's not going to produce results either. Sure, I'll get far enough and then I'll get a low back injury or a shoulder injury, or I'll just look funny and get discouraged and move out of my exercise program. And lastly, I want to talk about left to right. I can't have a really jacked right arm and a really weak left. That's not going to work, and eventually it's going to cause rotation in my spine. If I'm constantly pulling harder on this side, whether it's on my back or front, it's always going to result in some sort of rotation in my body, in my axial skeleton, or my central point.
Now it's time to talk about energy system training. See, you've got three of them in your body. You've got your ATP-PC, your anaerobic, and your aerobic. Your ATP-PC is otherwise known as your adenosine triphosphate phosphocarbonate energy system. It's your fastest energy system, and it's your 0 to 2 second explosive energy system. Next comes your anaerobic, which is 2 to 60 seconds. It's also used as a quick energy system and burns up all kinds of sugars in your body, which is great for getting rid of carbohydrates and creating the fat loss effect you're looking for. Third and finally is your aerobic energy system, which is 60 seconds and beyond. This is where your endurance comes from. Ultimately, when you want to get the best fat loss effect, you have to train all three so that you burn up as many calories as you can for days and days to come. And we're talking about 48 to 72 hours of excess post-oxygen consumption, or EPOC, which is ultimately the key to your fat loss success. All right, so we've covered a lot. Let's take a step back and review. First off, the real problem is that you're not training your nervous system. That's first and foremost. Secondly, think about training all systems from musculoskeletal to circulatory to digestive. Turn your muscles back on with the body transformation mini circuit, which you'll be getting shortly. Use the triple M system for rapid fat loss. If you recall, that's multiplanar movement, movement complexes, and muscle balancing. And finally, Always train all three energy systems. That's your ATP PC, which is your quickest, most explosive energy, your anaerobic, which is your fast twitch muscle fibers, and then your aerobic, which is the stuff that gives you endurance. So you want to train at all three speeds for best results. I know that this can be a lot to process. When I first learned it, it took me a while too.
All right, so the coolest thing is, though, there's a solution to all this. I figured out along the way that there's a way to actually enhance my health and let my body go to work for me. The University of Miami faculty helped me figure this out. You see, they taught me how to train the smaller muscles, balance muscles around my joints, improve circulation, decrease pain response, and reposition my body just the way a baby's born. And you see, your body's your best healer. And when you put it in the optimal shape or you put it in the optimal position, it figures out how to melt fat. A lot of people, they don't even think about this. It's like a whole new level of fitness, isn't it? It's a whole new design. It's really, really cool. So here's what I do. This is exactly what it is. I put the body where it belongs, and then I let the body do everything else for me. So my goal isn't fat loss. My goal isn't strength or muscle. My goal is simply repositioning the body in the ideal scenario and then letting it do the rest of the work for me. And that's the magic behind neurofat loss. That's the magic behind neurostrengthening and neurofitness. Integrating your nervous system into your musculoskeletal system, into your ligaments, and into everything else in order to create this optimal scenario for your body and